Today on the Transplant Helper, we're going to be talking a little bit about time management, how that relates to you and I as pre and or post-transplant patients, as well as offering you 4 things you can implement right now, which I promise you will help you to better manage your time and take advantage of those precious moments you've been offered through the gift of life. Go ahead and stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to the Transplant Helper. Today, my name is Jim Merle, and I realize, like you do already, time management is not the typical subject we normally cover here on the program. But I'll assure you, if you'll stick around toward the end of this, you're really going to be able to understand, maybe even comprehend, just how important time management can be to us, whether we're pre or post-transplant patients. Because if you're like I am, you're either low on energy or high on task, or maybe a mix of both, and making it through a day can be difficult if we're not properly managing our time. Now, let me go and ask you also, before we go any farther, if you're not a subscriber to this channel already, I want to ask you, can you please go ahead and do that? Hit the subscribe button beneath the video, maybe even the bell notification off beside that, and you'll be notified every time I put out new content, which I hope will help to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. But with that said, let's jump right in. What are 4 things you need to be doing right now, starting now, to better manage your time? Well, number 1, hold up, wait a minute. I'm sitting here editing this video and I'm thinking to myself, I'm doing a video on time management, but yet I've got this person watching the video who's about to kill 8 or 10 minutes out of their day. Let me stop right now. If you're on a mobile device, especially on the iPhone, on the YouTube app, you can go in right now, hit the 3 dots you see up in the upper right-hand corner of your video player. When you do that, a drop down will come down. It will give you the option for playback speed. Click on that and it will give you an option even to speed this video up so you can get it done in almost half the time. Choose one, see if it works for you. If not, go back to normal speed. Anyway, keep watching. Well, number 1, that is you need to journalize. And what I mean by journalizing is before you go any farther, go to that proverbial to-do list, as many would suggest. You need to make a journal of what you're doing right now. What does a current day look like? What is the typical baseline of what your days are all about? You need to go ahead and journalize that. Write those things down on paper, hour by hour, so that later you can look back at that, see where you are now, and then eventually see where you're going to be when you implement the rest of these steps. And I mean, be very specific when you journalize too. Go ahead and write down basically every single move you make from the time you wake up to the time you pillow your head. Not only write those things down, but write out beside them the time that you began and ended each task. For example, I wake up every morning at 6:15. By say 7 o'clock, I've helped to get the children ready for school. It's off to school we go. By 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm back at the house, I'm eating breakfast, and I'm writing down all of those times as I go. Say by 8 o'clock, I may be sitting in the living room on the couch now, flipping on the television to see what the daily news is. You see, none of those tasks are really bad within themselves, but we need to understand where we're laying now as a baseline so that we can better later, as I'll mention, look for holes in those days, places in which we can really improve. And you know as well as I do, a lot of things like sitting on the TV or watching TV, watching YouTube even, yeah, I understand that. Staying on social media like Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing can suck a lot of time out of our day. Time that we later might need to do something else. And I'm not telling you not to do any of that, especially I'm encouraging watch my programs, but at the same time, I realize you've got to take care of your time. So journalize, that's the first step. Step number 2, that is to prioritize your time. And what I mean by that specifically is once you get everything journalized, once you have a baseline of where you are, now that's where you sit down and make the non-traditional, I emphasize the word non-traditional, to-do list. And I mean by that, write down those 10, 15, 20, it seems like 100 things that you want to do or you need to do in a day. Write those things down and then come out beside that. And this is why notebook paper works as good as any. Right out beside that, put those things back in a better order, setting priorities now where they need to be. And it's obvious in the life of a transplant, for example, your number 1 priority every day might be to make sure you take your medication. So put that at the top. Your number 2 priority in any given day, any time of the year, might be to attend a clinic visit, to go to your doctor, to get your checkup. That's right there at the top. Then other tasks, things like watching television are going to be nearer to the bottom. Things like even cleaning the house or doing yard work or, whatever it is, reading a book. Those things may be as important to you in some senses, but they're not the same priority. So bring them on down the list, put those things in order, or prioritize your list. And here's what I really mean by that, and that is you need to be specific in that, and you need to make sure that you're writing down the tasks that need to be done above those which you just want to be done. Okay, so go ahead and journalize, go ahead and prioritize, and in the third place, now go ahead and organize. And I say organize because just having a to-do list with those, again, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 tasks on it does no good, even if they're prioritized, if you've not already decided in your mind and on that paper when you're going to do those things. You say, of course I know when I'm going to do it. It's a to-do list for today, so I'm going to do them today. Yeah, well, if you've done that before, probably not. And here's where my mind had to shift and reset from my old ways into this new way in order to better grasp what I needed to do. And that is, if you've ever looked at a real businessman, a professional woman's calendar, you might notice that when they keep a calendar, they don't just list the days of the month and then a list of 8 events they have to attend to that day or task. What they'll often do is they'll put those things on a calendar, but it's not a daily calendar, it's an hourly calendar. Now, I'll admit, when I see those things, sometimes they just get all scrambled. I don't really get it. I don't really understand it. But what I've learned, if you organize your time hour by hour, you'll get a whole lot more done. And so the same task we mentioned earlier, like waking up, set a time for that. Things like helping get the children off, if that's a part of your day, set a time for that. Things like eating breakfast, set a time for that. Things like being on Facebook or on YouTube, set times for that. Any task that you need to do, schedule yourself a time for that. And you don't have to cram it all together. You don't have to say, well, every task takes 8.5 minutes, so every 8.5 minutes I've got to do something. No, put yourself some flexibility in there. Put yourself some places where there can be some defaults. If I can't complete this, I'll do that. But write it all out on an hourly calendar. As strange as it may seem, make sure that you're organizing that to-do list. So you journalized, you've got a baseline, you prioritize, you've written a to-do list in order of priority. Now you're going to organize that list, put it on a daily, but not just daily, but an hourly yet daily calendar. Here's where you really get in the good part. This is the exciting part. Now you must actualize. So let me get my fingers up. Number 4, you must actualize. That is, go ahead now and start doing the task. And as you're doing those tasks, don't be frustrated by the things you're not able to get to. Don't be frustrated by the things that you seem to not have the energy or the time for. Don't worry about that, but reward yourself for the things that you are actually actualizing, actually doing. What are you accomplishing? Be proud of yourself. Pat yourself on the proverbial back, on both shoulders, whatever you have to do, but reward yourself for doing those things. And don't be down and out on the things that you can't accomplish, because yes, as pre or post-transplant patients, our lives can be hectic, more hectic than any normal person's life. We want to be normal, I get it, but it can be very hectic. And sometimes things can be very difficult to do. So go ahead, journalize, prioritize, organize, and then actualize your list. I promise you this will help. Now, if you found this helpful already, this video, how about go ahead and give me a big thumbs up, like this program, maybe consider sharing it out with your friend, and hopefully that will help to motivate me. Hopefully it will help someone else. I appreciate you joining me today, even though this was a little bit different discussion, but I still encourage you, as always, go ahead and stay stronger, friends.